Since I read this book, A Thousand Splendid Suns, my verdict: stay away of Afghanistan now, especially if you woman. In this video, we will talk with you about Taliban and his influence for Afghanistan, about Soviet Union and their influence for Afghanistan, about America and their influence for Afghanistan. So we'll talk with you about politics and history, about discrimination, women there, about burqa, is it good or bad, is it bad Islam, or it's much more important how people interpret Islam. And also we will talk about education, about Kabul, life in Kabul, and some other topics. So let's start. First, what I want to remind you and me is that in the fiction books, it's usually much more darker everything that it's in the reality. Yes, in Afghanistan, so far everything bad. Economic of the country is going down. But so far what we know about Taliban, that nowadays Taliban is different what it was in the book. It's the second Taliban, and they are already much more smarter and sly. They don't have so wild discretion but what they had before, and you can see on the screen. I will show you how it was before when it was first Taliban will show up. It was a pretty bad situation and for women and for men also. But of course for women it was a much worse situation. But for me the most important in this situation, at least how it shows in the book and in the video what I was watching about Afghanistan and different people in Afghanistan, that people there, they don't need this politics. They against all this. They want to be modern. They want to have peace and raise their kids in the peace. But regular people in Afghanistan, they want the same stuff what we want. They want that it wouldn't be no anymore discrimination of the woman. They want freedom to listen music. They want a stronger internet. They also support women, and they also want that women have a right just go outside without men. Because what I seen is they're bored there. It's only men. They haven't seen any women outside. So they see that this politics, what they have now in the country, is not helpful at all for anybody. And they know that they need to change it. But how to change the situation in the country, they don't know. And the most important that they don't have time to think about this, because time when do you need to think about situation in your country, first you need to feel not hungry. And first what they do is they try to cover their basic needs. What is good in Afghanistan for now is that Taliban finally understand that without business country can't exist. So they invite from different countries some businessmen that they can try at least to build their business in Afghanistan, and that's what is help a little bit to raise the economic in the country. Another plus what is Taliban did to the country is there are no drugs anymore, because before in Afghanistan there were a lot growing plants for the drugs. So now they don't do it. So that's another plus. And also if you would like to visit Afghanistan, so probably it would be like some certain spots where you can go. Something it would be remind you North Korea, where the government will try to convince you that everything is fine and everything what you've seen in the news is wrong. So we see that they have small changes to the good, but mostly, of course, it's dangerous country and there everything very bad. This book is first book what I read from the after, and I wouldn't stop. I will continue read his books because it's must have to read. It's about everything. It's like so much full picture of Afghanistan, of the atmosphere there, of the politics, of the history, of the routine life. You will find out how people living in the village, how people living in the big city, how it's with medicine, everything, and how everything going on with traveling, with refugee, with orphan house. It's so much everything in this book you can find out, and mostly of this is true. And his another book, The Kite Runner. I haven't read this book, but I have a friend who will read this book, and she was kind of enjoying that book. And how I understood it was talking about male part of the Afghanistan, and violation what has happened to the small boys. So I'm not sure that I will read this book, but this is about a female part of Afghanistan, about girls, women, their traditions, their life in Afghanistan. If you wonder why this book called A Thousand Splendid Suns, it's because author took this verse from a 17th century Persian poem by Talib-e Tabrizi. It was quoted at the beginning of the novel. One could not count the moons that shimmer on her roofs, of the thousand splendid suns that hide behind her walls. And the poem is describing Kabul, and this book is about Kabul, but also another reasons it's because of the women, because this book it's about bright women who is very strong, even doesn't matter of the conditions of the country, of the different politics of the country, of the men of discrimination and other stuff. They anyway continue to be strong and bright and try to do the best for the country, for their family, for their children, and that's of course is amazing. And I want to talk a little bit more about politics, because life of these women they also depends on the political situation in the country. So it would be short about politics, but before I want to say that this author is amazing author, and his family was refugee also from the Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, it's more than 2 million people who lost their houses. And Khaled, when they came to America, he became a doctor. And in the morning, from 4 a.m. until 8 a.m., until first patient, what he had, he usually wrote his books. And he has foundation where you can send money and also help refugee from the Afghanistan. And before we continue to talk about the book, what's going on in the book, let's short to talk about history of Afghanistan, of politics, how it's always changed and how it's influenced to the people we will talk later, and now how it was also time changing politics there. So in the book, it's time frame from the 60s to the 2002. It's like when America came to the Afghanistan. So we will talk mostly about these time frames. From the 60 to 73, it was monarchy there, and Afghanistan was ruled by King Zahir Shah. I actually didn't know that they had king, but it seems that they have everything there. In 1964, a new constitution introduced a parliament, limited democracy, more freedoms for women, education, work, voting. Kabul became relatively modern and stable. So we can see in the book when it was king, of course it was like a lot of poverty there, a lot of corruption there, but also after was mentioned about these rich districts in the Kabul, and it's called Chicken Street. And characters in the book, they make fun of the chicken street, but there is no chicken. But there was rich people, and their women, they had skirts so that you can see even their knees. And for the people who came from the villages, for them it was wild, but people who lived in the Kabul, for them it was fine, and they could smoke and they could went to the university, and in general there was pretty fine. In 1973, coup d'etat. Mohammed Daoud Khan, the king's cousin, overthrew the monarchy. Afghanistan became a republic. Khan tried to modernize the country but ruled increasingly authoritarian. He relied on communist support at first, then turned against them. In 1978, Summer Revolution, a communist party overthrew and killed Khan. Afghanistan became a communist state. Radical reforms were introduced: land redistribution, forced education, women's rights. These changes caused massive backlash, especially in rural and religious areas. So we can see that first it was king, and afterwards it came his cousin, and it's already started to be like kind of communist regime. In the same time, almost it was 1979, 1989, it was Soviet invasion and war. In December 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan to support the communist government. A brutal war followed between Soviet-backed Afghanistan government, Mujahideen, Islamic resistance fighters supported by the US, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia. Millions of Afghanistan were killed or displaced. The Soviets withdrew in 1989. How we can see, for women it was much more advantage on this political regime because they became kind of equal with a man and they have much more rights than they had before. And they not only may have to go to have education, but they must to go to the school and have education. For the women in that time, it was kind of bright time. For the men, it wasn't a good time because it started the war and mostly Afghanistan's men, they were dragged to the war and it was millions of people died. Of course, mostly people, they were against of communists because of this, because of their husbands, their sons, they were died. And who else was against of communism? It was rich people, because in the communism all people supposed to be equal. It's not existed rich people. They supposed to be all in the same level. So for the women it was good, for rich people it wasn't good, and for the men it wasn't good also. Next, what we have in 89 and 1902, communist government collapsed. The Afghan communist government survived briefly after Soviet withdrawal. In 1992, it collapsed. Mujahideen forces entered Kabul. And we can see in the book that for some people it was happy day when Mujahideen entered to Kabul. They will feel a revenge of the Soviet Union and how they destroyed their sons, fathers, and husbands. From the 92 until 96, it was civil war. When Mujahideen started to rule in the Kabul, it was from 92 until 96. It was also civil war in Afghanistan. It's because Mujahideen factions turned against each other. But in the 1996 until 2001, and the Taliban emerged from religious school in Pakistan to Kabul in 1996. They imposed strict Islamic rule, women banned from work and education, harsh punishment. The Taliban controlled most of the country. They hosted Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. So it was plus that they kind of like keep together, right? It wasn't how it was before. Then in the politics they were against of each other. How it was previously in the politics, and they were that they didn't have any agreement between each other and they were fighting against of each other. And that's it. That was only plus because what it was a wild restriction what they had for the women, what they had for the men, how it turned all this political situation to the regular citizens, and how it was with hospitals and how it was with poverty, how it was with women. It was very wild. From 2001, it's US invasion and new government. After the September 11, 2001 attacks, the US demanded the Taliban hand over bin Laden. Taliban refused. In October 2001, the US and allies invaded Afghanistan. Taliban government collapsed quickly. In 2002, Hamid Karzai became head of a new interim government. When America invaded Afghanistan, situation became much better. And that's what it was briefly about political situation, that you will more understand the book and why it's happened in the book, like how it was happened, right? And before when we start to talk about this book and everything, let's first read this book. Of course, I will rate this book 5 out of 5. It's amazing book and my highly recommendation. And for those who haven't read this book, what's going on in the book? After first introduce us with a little girl who is waiting for her father every Thursday, And when her father came, she is extremely happy, she played with him, and after a few hours he again left them. Her name is Mariam, and her mother, who she called Nana told her that her father can't stay with her because she is bastard, Harami. Mariam's father, Jalil, has already 3 wives and 10 children, and he is a very rich man. He owns all the cinema theater, he has some stores and many cars, and he can't allow that Mariam with her mother will stay in his house because it would be a spot in his reputation. They were lived in the Kolba, and her father was covered all their needs there. On 15th birthday of Mariam, she wished that he will take her and her siblings to the theater and they could watch some movie and eat ice cream. And when it was her birthday, her father just didn't show up. So she decided to visit his house. They're living in the city, it's called Herat. When she showed up there, of course, nobody let her come in. She was whole night sleep on the ground next to the door, but nobody opened it, and eventually father's driver took her back to her Nana. Nana made a suicide. After this, Jalil took his daughter to their house, but 3 his wives was against of her, and they decided to send Mariam as far as possible, and they find for her husband, his name Rashid, and he lived in the Kabul. He is 40, 45, nobody knows how old is he, and she is 15 years old. So after marriage, they moved to the Kabul. He showed her 2-level house and with 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, living room. At the beginning of their marriage, everything was kind of okay. She tried care of her. One the strict rule what he had that if she is going outside, she need to wear burqa. And Mariam, of course, like good wife, she's always listen Rashid. And after some time, Mariam found out that she is pregnant. Rashid is very happy of this. He is take care of Mariam. We can see that she had miscarriage, and Rashid already changed his attitude to her. After a few years, she became pregnant, and she's again lose her child. And after few years, we see that Rashid became really wild, and he started beat her a lot and be rude with her, and there we see a lot of domestic violence going on there. At the same time, we see that they have neighbor, and this neighbor, she became pregnant and born a child, and they called her Layla. It's mother, father, 2 brothers, and little Layla. It started war of Soviet Union. These 2 brothers were dragged to the war. Their mother, she always feel bad. She stayed in her room and she didn't show up at all. I didn't do any domestic work at all. And Layla, who is 9 years old, she needed to cook, to clean, to wash clothes for everyone, and plus went to the school and studied there. Her father, who before was brilliant teacher in university, now he became worker in bread factory. Layla has a really good relationship with her father. For her father, it's most important her education. After when he finished his job, he back to home, they will eat, and he tried to teach her even more than it was in the school. Layla has her best friend, it was boy, and his name is Tariq, and we see that when they became teenagers, they start love each other. Before when Soviet Union lost, Layla found out her brothers were died in the war. After Soviet Union in the country became very dangerous, bombs shooting all the time, and many people start to die. And one day Tariq showed up in their house when it wasn't her parents there, and she told her that he and his parents, they decided to move to Pakistan or to some other country, and Layla, she had shocked. She starts to cry, and Tariq says that he willing to take her with him and she can be his wife. Layla said that she will stay with her parents. But before, when Tariq was gone, they had sex. After a few days, Layla found out that her friend from the school, she was died because it was bomb fall on her. And after a few more days, Layla almost was shooted, and her parents decided moved also. When they started loading the car, Layla took one suitcase and she went outside, and in the same time, bomb was fall in their house, and her parents was died. Layla, she was survived, and Rashid took her to his house. Rashid on that time already been around 60 years old and Layla 14 years old. And Rashid decided that he won't marry her. Layla was agree because she found out that actually she became pregnant after when they sleep together with Tariq. They were married. Mariam, she was not happy with this, but what she can do? Rashid was extremely happy. He compared his wives to the cars. Layla, it was Benz, and Mariam was Volga. He was worship Layla. Mariam became like a slave in his house. Layla tried to be a friend to the Mariam, but Mariam, of course, she didn't need it. After some months, Layla gave birth to the girl. Rashid was furious about this. He wanted son, so he tried ignore girl how he can. They named girl Aziza, and that's how Layla and Mariam, they became friends because Mariam also started to love Aziza and she started to play with her. And another reason that Layla doesn't need anymore to have sex with this old man Rashid, and she started to reject him. Rashid was furious, tried to beat Mariam. Layla protect Mariam, and Mariam was surprised of this and shocked and thankful. And it's another reason why Layla and Mariam, they became very close to each other. After a few more months, Layla understood that sooner or later Rashid will figure out that Aziza is not his daughter, so they need to run. So she will share her idea with Mariam. Mariam was support Layla, so they will collect some money from Rashid that he wouldn't see it. They'll run. Here's already not Soviet Union, and women all supposed to cover their faces. And if they want to travel from the city to another city, they need men who would be with them. So they called taxis. They came to the bus station. They find one young man there, and he was bought tickets for them, but also he told police they're not with them, and probably they need to check these women. Police returned them to Rashid. Rashid was of course extremely angry. He was beat Layla, beat Mariam. Conditional in their house became worse than how it was before. If before Rashid liked Layla, now he tried ignore both of them or beat both of them. But after some years, Layla found out that she is pregnant. And she gave birth already to the son, and they called him Zalmay. If Mariam wasn't show enough respect to Zalmay, she was beaten. If Aziza heard Zalmay, she was beaten also. Everybody was beaten if they didn't do enough respect to Zalmay. Rashid went crazy and he started to buy a lot of toys. He bought a TV, even TV wasn't allowed in the Afghanistan. He anyway found TV and bought for Zalmay. But in the same time, they didn't have enough money. And here's the news that Rashid, because he had a store where he makes shoes for the people, and his store was burned during the night. That's how it started. Hungry time for this family, because they have plenty of debts, they don't have money, they don't have income. What to do, they don't know. Rashid tried to find a job, but he is already 60-something years old and he had struggling with this. They decided bring Aziza to the orphan house. After some time, Rashid finally found job in the hotel, and in the same time, Tariq was shown up. While Layla married Rashid because she thought that Tariq died, but here he is, totally alive. He was sharing with Layla his story, how he was struggling with his parents in the refugee camp, how he lost his father, afterwards he lost his mother, how he spent years in prison, and eventually he finds a job in a hotel in the Pakistan. Layla told him about Aziza. They decided that they need to visit Aziza together next day. And here's Rashid back from the work, and Zalmay told him about a man who came to the house. Rashid figured out everything and almost killed Layla, but Mariam killed Rashid. Layla and Tariq, they took kids and they went to Pakistan. They married there and they worked in the hotel together. They cleaned rooms. Mariam went to prison and she was shot at there, but she was happy that she can sacrifice her life for the Layla and kids. Tariq and Layla, they watched news that American invaded to Afghanistan, and seems in Afghanistan life became better. They decided again move to the Kabul and rebuild Kabul with other citizens. And at the end of the book, we see that Layla, she visited Herat, where Mariam from. She went to Kolba, where she was growing. Afterwards, they went to the Kabul, start their life. They tried to help rebuild orphan house where it was Aziza. And Layla, she is teaching those kids and her own kids there, and she is happy and she is again pregnant. And they all believe in the future of Afghanistan, in the bright future of Afghanistan. First, what I want to talk with you, it's about Islamic, that everything what has happened in Afghanistan or other Islamic country, it's not because Islam bad. It's because interpretation of Quran is wrong. It's the same how we have Bible. We have different churches, and in every church they have their own rules because of their different interpretation of Bible, right? In the Orthodox, it also says that women need to cover their hair and don't show it. If you came to the Orthodox Church, you will see that women there cover their hair because in the Bible they seen it. And in the Quran, it's the same. It's just bad interpretation. Everything what is Taliban say is very wild and doesn't say in Quran like this, but they interpreted it like this, right? Mullah Fizullah, it's a man who was teaching Maryam Quran. And what he's saying, admitted to Mariam that at times he did not understand the meaning of the Quran's verse, but he said he liked the enchanting sounds the Arabic verse made as the road of his tongue. He said they comforted him, eased his heart. He came and teach Mariam of Quran, but he admitted he sometimes don't understand Quran, and how many people sometimes don't understand Quran, because to understand Quran, Bible, other books, you need to have education. It's must have. It's very hard books, and it doesn't matter what it would be the text. I will understand my way, you will understand your way, but that to try to understand is correct, you need education. You need knowledge of the different areas that understand those books. I was happy reading the book how Layla's father forced her so much to learn and tell her that education is the most important in the world. She sees that in the future it helps her. She starts to teach other kids. Education is not even do you know this or you don't know something. It's more about how it shapes your brain, how it shapes your thoughts. If some person with education will see text and the person with non any at all the question sees the same text, they would be totally different, understand this text. So that's important, shape your brain and learn something more and more and more. Next subject was make me mad. Women, but not women, mothers in this book. Mariam was asked Nana that she wants to go to the school and also have education how other her siblings. You learn nothing of value in the schools. There is only one skill a woman like you and me needs in life, and they don't teach it in school. Only one skill, and it's this tahammul, endure. And that's already like how you raise your child, right? Layla mother, she was a little bit different because she had this beautiful husband, right? He is maybe not so strong how other husband. He is not so tough how other husband, but that's why she can able to grieve of her sons, because if it would be a much stronger man next to her or much more tough man next to her, she would be beaten like it was Mariam and Layla. Layla's mother Fariba, she was all the time grief of her sons who was dragged to the war, and that is bad. But also she has husband, she has daughter, but what she could do, she just like blame her husband, blame her daughter, and just ignore everybody and crying during years in her room with picture of her sons, and that is horrible. But again, she has this option just because she has such a beautiful husband, such a smart husband who gave her this opportunity. In the book, it was shows extreme selfish of mothers, because first it's Nana who was teach her daughter how to endure in the life and what the future she will have, or maybe if she will go to the school, maybe she would have another future. But here it's no other future, because what she need to do is endure during all her life, and that's what she did. And Fariba, who decided just to cry whole time in her bed, instead that to try to protect her daughter what is left, right, and just like to move maybe to another country that it would be safety. No, she decided to cry. We can see how it's influence parents with the children. Just like shows us that if you so idiot and loser in your life, or what you try that your children would be the same. And that's what it was. These women, they had not happy life at all, and they wanted that their kids would be not happy too. And how it can be better for our world. And it was interesting how it shows in the book mothers and fathers, right? That like mothers, they are like have tough life, and they try that their children would be have the same tough life how they had. And how it's fathers, because Jalib, Mariam's father, right, he wasn't best father at all. He was to think about his reputation and everything, but still he not just like kick out her from his life. He still like trying to take care of her, and he was weekly at least show up and play with her and say how she is good and that she is best of the best. I mean, at least something. My crush in this book, he also try do the best to her daughter. Right, he was grief about his sons like it was mother of Layla. Still, he understands that he need provide his family food, roof, clothes and other stuff. And also, he remember that he has a daughter who needs his support. I know you're still young, but I want you to understand and learn this now. Marriage can wait, education cannot. You are very, very bright girl. Truly you are. You can be anything you want, Layla. I know this about you, and I also know that when this war is over, Afghanistan is going to need you as much as its men, maybe even more, because a society has no chance of success if its women are uneducated, Layla, no chance. I just like thought how many girls could hear this verse from their fathers that marriage can wait. First, it's education, and that's Layla. She was educated, that she was raised in the family when her father loved her very much. That's what is influence for her life. And Rashid first was attitude to her like to the bands, right? Because she was bright, smart, young girl, and After she even beat sometimes Rashid, she wasn't have this mentality to be beaten. I can see that after many years with Rashid, look at yourself, you became Mariam, you became miserable, you're not beautiful how before, you're not smart like before, you not how you were before, you became like Miriam. And again, why she became like Miriam, right? Maybe it's because she lived with Rashid, right? For me, it's most disgusting scene in the book when parents try to raise their child. They give everything what they able to give to the child. They give energy, they give money, they give love, they give absolutely everything what they can, and they try their best, and afterwards they see that flower is raised, it's beautiful, it's nice, it's beautiful, it's shiny. Some man show up and smash this flower. And that's what has happened to the poor Layla. Her father tries his best that she would be educated, that she would be happy, that she would feel love. And what we see afterwards, a couple of years with Rashida, and she became like Mariam. Some men, they not appreciate of work of the other people, of the parents, because they try their best raise of their child, and afterwards some men show up and he thinking that he is allowed to smash this flower. Layla's father says that country will need educated women, and that's what is true. For me, it's kind of impossible, and the book, it was the same. How is my thought? I didn't understand this point when Talib says that half people sit at home and half people in the war or somewhere else, and how country supposed to survive of this, right? Because all women have to stay at home. All women, and there was like many of restriction for the women. So it's only men who can work, right? And if men would be sick or some disability or killed, what has happened to his family? It would be so huge poverty. I said before, I make research of some more information of Afghanistan, and what I find out that some women during this time, they were pretend that they are men that go and work. Because what to do if you don't have men? What to do if it's something happened with a man? How to feed your kids? It's only way to go for work. It's not allowed. And if Taliban figure out that it's not man but a woman, so she would be died. But they didn't have choice. And on the statistic, because many men also were fighting in the war. So someone supposed to support the family, and how it to do. Many women, they took this risk and they start to work. They pretend that they are men and they start to work. That's how it also changed a little bit situation in the country, because women who is working, they raise boys, right? They raised future men, and the boys see that mother actually not so weak, and women is not so weak, and that's how its attitude of the future men change because of mother. I don't understand how it is that men is rule this world, how it is that men disrespect so much women. If we give birth to them, if we raise them. I hope that in the future in Afghanistan it will be change situation with women, and women would be allowed to go to the school, university, and for work, and economic of the country would be raised much more than it's now. It would be more people work, more people run business, and it would becomes to the country much more money, and money is the most important in the country. It was also kind of funny when Rashid told Mariam about this communist come, and Mariam just like, who is communist? Who they are? And Rashid became angry. She doesn't understand anything, that she is so stupid. And again, he took her, and she was 15 years old. She was a little child, and she just walked whole time in the house, and how she supposed to know who is communism, what is going on if she all the time locked in the house. And that's what is maximum strange for me, when they show up at their home and they even can talk with anybody, can have a good conversation with anybody, because it's some locked afraid woman who just like a dog. And that's it. And afterwards, men not happy, women not happy, kids not happy, nobody happy, and with huge psychology problem raised. For me, it was kind of disgusting. I mean, it's like old man, 60 years, and took a young girl who is 14 years, like kids. And that's seems so wild, but after when you read this book, when you do more research, you understand there's like tradition in that country, and it's like many hundreds of years this tradition exists in that country, and people there, for them it's fine. They even don't think that it can be like different way. You just understand that it's disgusting, you totally don't understand it, but it is traditional, and for them it's fine even. But I would like to see that one day it would be changed. Another topic is hospitals. When it was Taliban in Afghanistan first time, I don't know how it's now, but in that time it was pretty bad situation. Layla, she was pregnant, and she already has labors. They were show up in the hospital, and there were men with a gun, and he just like, no, you're not allowed to come here, it's hospital only for men. And they came to another building, and there were only 2 nurses for whole building, where show up all women. There were huge dysentery, it was extremely dirty, no pills. Layla, she was near C-section, and nurse who did it, she said that they doesn't have anesthesia for this, so they will cut her, and she was feel everything, because all pills, all antibiotics, everything, it was in the hospital for men. And I just thinking how it can be in the hospital for men, for what they need so much medicine, when women has so much issue for their health, right? It's cycle, it's pregnancy, whereas women give new life for the men who rule in Taliban. Why women supposed to suffer and feel all pain and everything, that afterwards man who she gave birth, who she raised, he will tell her that she is nothing, and she doesn't supposed to exist at all. How it's happened? Where's logic in this world? For me, it was kind of funny, kind of sad read how they tried to watch Titanic movie, because again, it was Taliban, right? It was restriction about movie, about music, about everything. There were restriction. Only was they able to do its breathe. At the time, people from whole world, they were watching Titanic. In Afghanistan, people try sneaky way to watch Titanic, and it was interesting to read how they bought Titanic movie and watch on TV, but it was with no any sounds, with no brights. It was dark at night, in garage, that nobody will find out that they're watching Titanic. And it is such a simple movie. You need to do so much effort to look this movie, and that's what is crazy. And what is more crazy is that this stupid restriction, anyway, people will watch this movie. Even more people will watch, even more people will like it if it's such a strict restriction there. So that I never say that Burqa and few wives, it's actually not so bad. I will explain why. Just when Mariam was wearing burqa, right? And in general, she's very shy woman, and they decided to come to the restaurant, and she was show up, and she was feel good there, right? Because it was burqa, and nobody can see her, and nobody can see her emotion and anything. It's in some way funny. It's a joke, right? If someone invite you so much, don't want to come to this party, but you have to, you can wear burqa, show up there, and read a book under the burqa or play phone, and nobody will figure out what are you doing, right? So that's some pluses. And another is about many wives. I was always against all this, but in some way it's actually not so bad, right? How we see in this book, if you married and you doesn't like your husband, you don't love your husband, but if actually he has another wife, because it can be your friend, you can drink tea together, you can talk about your husband, you can share your work at home, you can do like many stuff. So in Afghanistan and in other countries where it's Islam and where it's like few wives, actually you forced to marry it, probably for that women actually not bad if their husband take another wife. At least you can share your feelings. You can help care with their kids. They can help with your kids, because usually there are many wives, many kids, many to do in the house, right? So maybe in some ways makes sense there to have wives. I was happy at the end to see that Mariam's father Jalil, he understood how he was wrong, because not so many people, even at the end of their life, they admit their mistake. But Jalil, he was admit that he was wrong, and that reputation is nothing. Of course, if he can turn time back, he would let her live in his house, he will take care of her and everything, and he understood it when it's time to die, but better later than never. And just for me it was nice, and it was a little bit bright light in this book when you're reading like this, that after all these years at least, he understood that he was wrong, and he did a lot of mistakes towards his daughter. At the end of the book, I was disagree with Layla and Tariq back to home, right? Because it's Americans show up, and generally it seems everything okay there, and they back to help rebuild their city, what they love, their country, and it is truly it is good. We need people like this. It's just my opinion that I think it's very stupid stuff to back, especially when they have an option, maybe move to Europe, to America, to some another country, and try to build their life with safety, especially if they have 2 kids, right? But they decided back to Afghanistan and try to rebuild there everything. But again, it could be like happen, because we now that Talibs for nowadays they back and rule Afghanistan how it was before, and still it's dangerous situation there. And we can imagine if Layla and Tariq, they would be real characters, they would be back to Kabul, but after 10 years where their kids already grow, they would be still, it would be a dangerous situation. They will grow their kids in the dangerous environment, and it could be happen the same how it was happened with Layla. Her parents died, some man took her and married her, and she had extremely bad life. So it's what is could be future of their kids. Instead, they can just like move to another safety country and try to raise their kids. When Layla took taxi to drive to Herat, where Mariam from, and she was talking with taxi driver, and he shared his story that he was lost kids, wife, and it was a lot of pain in his life, and he's still in that country, and he still try to help rebuild this country, and in general he feel fine. Layla was surprised that after so much pain in your life you still can behave kind of normal, smile. That's amazing in general how short memory we have, and that it's could happen something bad, but mostly people they survive, they like keep going forward. They understood that it would be some pain with them forever, but still life is continue, and I think that's how it's we are humans, we survive, right? Because we still can step over and going forward. I wanted to cry a little bit, right? Because of the help Zaman, a man who is runs this orphan house, how they tried to help him. Many kids who became orphan or abandoned of their mothers because it was such a huge poverty that mothers they just like bring their kids and because they couldn't feed them, so they don't have another choice. And kids out there, of course, they were struggling a lot, and that's nice that at the end of the book we see Layla, she is pregnant and she is around kids and she is teaching them, and they try to rebuild this orphan house. So that was nice ending. And conclusion of this book, of course, read this book. I promise that you will enjoy because it's also so much information you can know. You have to read this book only because to see how people love their country, how it's bad in the country, and they anyway return to the country, they anyway stay in the country because they love their home, they want to be there, and how it's painful when they have to go to another country and try to make little home there. Still they're dreaming to back to the Kabul, to the Herat or other towns. It's awful, it's awful. For now, when we try to do robots or go to the space in other part of the world, it's so much wildness that people just can't stay home. It was very interesting read about Afghanistan, that they have different languages. That it was small tour of the Kabul and Herat. It was very nice too. And if you just thinking about visit Afghanistan, because I know one girl and she want to visit Afghanistan, for sure you need to look for videos in YouTube and read this book, and then you would be more clear, understand that religion can be interpreted wrong, that government can be bad, but the people is always good and bad in every country. Mostly people, they just want a safety environment for their kids, for them, and to be confident for the next day. Thank you that you've been with me. If you want to support my channel, please subscribe. Left your comment. What do you think about this book? Do you want to visit Afghanistan or not? And see you on my next video.